Hello and welcome back to Sharks Happen. My name is Hal. I'm your host. We're going to go over some shark attack bites, mainly from the great white. Tiger shark will bite anything, and bull shark, it only fits into a couple of these categories. We came up with 5 categories. People talk about mistaken identity or not and say most are mistaken identity. I disagree. I got it in 5 categories of attacks, and we'll go over those right now. We'll start out with their favorite, mistaken identity. Mistaken identity is a brutal hit. Usually one hit, and it's very, very brutal. You usually lose a leg, an arm. Lewis Bourne's case, it went through the surfboard and took a pizza-sized chunk right up to the middle of his body. Gone. One hit. So that's a true mistaken identity. Usually happens when you're laying on the surfboard. It changes up the proportions of the arms and legs and makes you look more like the silhouette, I would believe, of a elephant seal or sea lion that's laying on top of the water. So that would be the mistaken identities. Sometimes they happen in murky waters, but they would have to not continue on with the attack. And a lot of the murky water attacks we have, they have consumed the person. So I'm not sure about that they can't see any better than we can see in the water. I think they can see better than we can in the water. It's just me. So that would be our mistaken identity bites. The next would be a test bite. And these are like a double-edged sword type thing. It could be really gentle. Heather Boswell and the gentleman that bit just before her, it grabbed onto his thigh. So it grabbed his thigh, he punched it in the head, and it let him go and went and grabbed her leg, did a bite on her lower leg, and then went up and grabbed her thigh and then ended up biting that off. Those were test bites at the beginning, and they're so gentle that we'll go over a story. Usually very large sharks, very large whites do this. I haven't heard of any other kinds of sharks doing this, or the smaller ones. The one guy says that he's down there and he's diving, and it felt like his buddy grabbed his shoulder and pulled him back. He looks over and there's a 16-foot great white on his shoulder. First of all, it sneaks up on you, and now it's got its teeth in you, and you don't even know you think it's your buddy. That is insane, and how you don't have a heart attack when you turn and look and see that. And I see story after story where the same thing happens. And the heart is an amazing thing, because mine, I would hope that I'd be like Roger Rabbit, the weasels, and give up the ghost once they saw that damn shark. I don't want to go through any of that. So, yeah, that would be a test bite. Now, the thing with a test bite is, I think it matters greatly, because there's 2 different kinds of test bites. There's that gentle one where they're there, they grab you, and you can't even tell that they're biting you. And then there's the kind like Rodney Orr and probably Rodney Fox to an extent, where you're hit when they're moving. They grabbed you and they're testing you out. Now that test is going to be a little bit, first of all, it's going to be more violent. They're moving anywhere from 10 to 20 miles an hour when they hit you probably. So it feels like a train or a car that hit you. And in their cases, it bit down with quite a bit of pressure. Well, it has to get through the suits they were wearing, I'm thinking, and whatever gear they have. So that might have caused it to be, but Rodney Fox's seemed a little bit more violent, so that seemed like an accidental bite. So that would be the test bite. I think it matters where it's going to test you. Rodney Orr was lucky, it bit him in the head and in the shoulders, didn't have a lot of place to get meat. Rodney Fox, it grabbed him mostly by the shoulder and then tore into the side, but it's still getting, I think that you're in more trouble with a test bite, because they're not necessarily going to feed. They're testing out to see if they want to feed. And if they grab you in an area like a thigh where they can get their gums, once their gums touch that, it's probably a go. It's more of a go than they get you in that bony part. So I think that the test bite, it matters where they test you if they're going to continue. So that's a test bite. We'll get on to. The next is they're out to eat you. We've had a lot of these out to eat you. They're going to eat you no matter what. They come up and hit you, and it's just brutal. Luciano Costanzo, we just went over. Shark came up, grabbed him by the chest and was shaking on the way down with him. Wasn't even waiting. His goggles, his fins were flying off like they do. So yeah, they're just out to eat you, and they don't like to eat us. So when they do, I don't think it's as simple as, they're hungry or they're mistaken identity. I think it's a combination of factors. You had a rough month at the office. They missed that seal. They conserve energy, and they will stop an attack on a little seal. If it dodges them enough, they will just give up and go away. They're not going to waste all their energy. They use a lot of energy when they go after the food, and they use a risk-reward type of calculation. They're not a dumb fish. So they're not going to use a lot of energy when they go after their fish. So if they, they haven't fed in a while, they've had a bad month, that sea lion didn't come in the water, that seal got away from them, they haven't found any dead whales or injured fish, and now they come across you. And the problem we have here is they're probably one of the last things, we are probably one of the last things they want to eat. We're probably the easiest thing they can eat that's in that water. We can't move. I mean, compared to anything else, we are just slow. Compared to a manatee, we are slow. We can't swim for anything. So we're the easiest thing they can grab. So if they wanted to, they could chow down all day long and we'd never go in the water, but they don't want that. We are one of the last things they want. They look in their cupboard, it's bare, they ain't got nothing. They see a couple slices of bread left in that loaf, check the fridge, they only got ketchup. And now we're a ketchup sandwich, because that's what we are. We're something disgusting that none of us want to eat, but we're going to eat that before we eat that worm on the ground or some insect. So we are a ketchup sandwich. They don't want to eat us, but they do if they have to, and if they think that, I think that if they need that energy to be able to get the next meal that they want, that they need to get an easy meal to get that meal that they want. So they're at some kind of a stage where they haven't eaten, they're not well, something's up, and they're pissed off. I mean, nobody knows, but it isn't as simple as, oh, they thought we were a seal. Well, I didn't think we were an octopus. I mean, their arms are more like ours as far as length, so, but I guess they think we're seals. That would be the out to eat you. Two more. You got an accidental bite. This is usually from sharks 8 to 10 feet long, great whites, switching over from eating fish to mammals at that time in their diet, and some of the comparisons are like they're wild teenagers. They're switching over and eating, and when you're doing that, you're obviously going to bite something that might not be what you want. Well, that's going to happen with those. Good thing is it's one bite. It's usually not terribly hard, and they're not going to finish up eating you. They bit you by accident, and they're going to let you go. So usually those smaller sharks, you're not going to end up a fatality from it. It's those big ones, because they're the ones that, even with the one bite, even if it's a test bite, sever an artery, do something, you're done. They want to go through with it, they can. Even 10-footer could go through with it if they wanted to. But I don't run across a lot of stories of smaller sharks consuming people. This is all large sharks, I've noticed, as far as great whites. The last attack is territorial. If you're on a surfboard and you're moving on the surfboard, and all of a sudden there's a shark down there, and it comes up and grabs the surfboard and starts shaking it, slapping its tail. Real famous one, that guy was doing a surfing competition and the thing came up. He wasn't moving yet, but same type of thing. It's, you had the old shark, the one shark sitting there, and you're out there surfing. Yeah, there's a shark. Oh yeah, I seen that shark the other day. That shark's cool, it doesn't mess with us. Well, that shark moves on, and old man shark moves in, and he's sick of people going across his lawn, and he takes it out on you. That's a territorial hit. That's when they're hitting a moving surfboard. That's when they're hitting a kayak, when they bite a kayak, when they bite a boat. I believe those are territorial, and that's probably the least likely of you being hurt, is in a territorial attack like that. Okay, we've gone over some large shark attacks. Now we're going to go over probably one of the smallest that can do the most damage. First one that I know of is March 16th, 2009. Mike Spalding is a long distance swimmer, and he's in Hawaii. He's swimming from Hawaii to Maui, a 30-mile swim. It's nighttime. He's got a support boat with him, and he feels a bite type thing on his chest. So he goes to get into the support boat, and before he gets there, the thing grabs onto his, I think it's his left calf, and takes a bite out of that too. And these are nasty bites, and I'll get into those in a second, because another attack happened, same thing, Cookiecutter shark over in Hawaii. He's swimming a different channel, this gentleman. It's just recent. I just came across it, but I don't want to get, he's swimming another channel, and he says that his shark sensor goes off. This is at nighttime too. And so now he's waiting there. I don't think he has a support boat with him. I think he has a buddy that's swimming with him. And he feels something grab his shoulder and twist. So he reaches back to see what it was, and he says he could feel a 2-inch deep hole in his shoulder. These cookie cutters, they have teeth that align straight. Their head is kind of empty there where their mouth is. It's completely empty, and it probably sucks in and then slices off whatever it has. So what you end up with is a hole going about 2 inches It's probably about 1.5 inches maybe wide, and they say they go to about 4 inches from the scraping of the thing, 4 inches long. But when you're bit by them, they have to do reconstructive surgery because you're missing a whole chunk of meat, and the stitches end up being about 8 to 10 inches long for one of these little bites that makes a 2-inch hole. So I wanted to go over to Cookiecutters there and go over one more story. Melissa Brunning, I believe her name is. She's 34 years old. She was out, I don't know where, on a yacht, and she decided she was going to feed a tawny nurse shark by hand. Those are those friendly nurse sharks, the kind with the weird mouth that kind of crunches shells of shellfish and things. So she's hand feeding the shark from her boat, and it clamps down on her finger and tugs her into the water. So, you know, not a good enough story for You're an Idiot, but I just thought I'd give you guys that one. Don't hand feed sharks, it's a bad idea. And as always, if you go into that water, you are much more afraid of those sharks than they are of you.